Hello YouTube, Swaggin' Man Piper 1926 here, smoking some Prince Andrew and my Peterson Shamrock Canadian, the one I couldn't think of the other day. If you look at it as a standalone tobacco, it's good. But I haven't got the same flavors as the one of like Prince Albert. Because I haven't hit the cocoa note yet. Or like the heavy, not heavy, but the burley flavor you get. But as standalone, it's not bad. And if you like a Burley Virginia, check it out, because it's most likely worth your time. Got a new subscriber, Ohio Piper. Thank you, sir, for the sub. Much appreciated. If you're curious, we're on our way to Mingo County, West Virginia. Working our way through I guess you'd call it a mountain road, pass, whatever, leaving Pike County, Kentucky. So if any of you are familiar with the area, you'll know respectively where I'm at. But get a little further up the road and I'll give you a view. A little bare now because of it being winter, but in the spring and summer months and fall, you can't beat the view. Well, in my opinion. Everyone ready to boot out the old man 2020 and ring in the new baby 21? I sure as hell am. Has not been our best, or not been my best year. But we take it all as it goes, or comes and goes, goes and comes. Incidentally, I'm not 100% on how to date all the pipes. This one says made in the Republic of Ireland, so I wonder respectively how old this pipe is. last one that Cass Piper Cassidy made. And if you don't know him, go check out his channel. He seems like a nice fellow. Making these stupid routes where you cross. It feels like crossing a couple 100 miles is what it feels like. But and essentially an 8-hour work day, a route that would normally be better as 3 to 4 jobs because of the area that you cover. They're giving me like 5 and 6. Which is not necessarily that many. Hang tight with me, folks. There you go. There's a little taste of kind of what I see on a daily basis. And like I said, it's a lot better in the spring, summer, and fall. And Lord's willing, if we're all still here, I'll give you a better view, or a more scenic view, when there's green all around. Had a phone call from my wife a minute ago that I'm going to have to pull up, most likely going to have to pull up the little floor that I had put down for the chickens, because the tile that we used is not staying. It was just particle board that I put down was going to have to come up and most likely redone, and one big piece of linoleum put down. So she's good and mad at me for that one. So that should make my next couple of days be right fun. But what do you do? Don't suppose anybody would want to come over and help. ahead and start getting your garden fixed up yet? I know we're not quite in a new year, but folks have put out a bigger garden, more sustainable garden. According to the old folks, you plant potatoes in March. And the way everything moves, it won't be too much longer and be doing that. Something I wish I'd have paid more attention to as a child. But for me, going to my grandparents' house, it was one of those things of, particularly my dad's parents. Papa had 2.5, maybe 3 acres. Nothing ginormous. Well, no, that may not be right at all. That might have been 1.5, maybe 2. That sounds better. And Papa, being raised up in the 30s, he actually, when he was a young boy, remembers sharecropping. His daddy had a little coal mine up on the hill that he would go and dig coal for, to heat the house. And then eventually they were able to take and buy him a place. But, my papa, he knew and forgot more farming, gardening that probably I'll ever know. But being a kid, going over there, Papa had an old barn that he kept a couple cane poles up kind of in the rafter of the bottom part of it. And us kids would go to Mamaw and say, Mamaw, we want to go fishing. Can we have a slice of cheese? And they either bought or got government cheese, I don't remember. But, come in a big block. Get the old wire cheese cutter out, slice a chunk of cheese, and you'd go and get the cane poles. And they had a creek behind the house, and it wasn't anything real fast moving, and it was kind of the spot where we would go was kind of a little lower pool, I guess you'd say, and there were little minnows, little bluegills in there, and a slice of cheese, a cane pole or two, and brother or cousins, and man, that's enough to keep you busy, or keep a kid busy, till either a couple hours or the cheese ran out. But when I reached a certain age, 7 or 8 maybe, Dad come to me one time, and they had corn, not quite knee high, maybe about a foot high. He said, son, of the age now where you're going to take and help. You know, all right. Well, the spot that my grandparents had, or that they gardened, you know, they would garden so far down, and then Mom and Dad would take and you know, essentially garden the rest. And they always had 2 rows of tomatoes, which always come out to about 80 or 90 or so, thereabouts, of plants of tomatoes, because that was a big, you always had tomatoes almost for every meal. Didn't matter for breakfast, if bacon and eggs, I would almost guarantee Mom will cut a tomato for the table. And then, of course, on down. And Mama and Papa, they canned. It always seemed like they canned a lot as a child, but, you know, they canned enough to sustain through the winter months. And then by the time planting season, so spring come in, you know, they were down to their last quart jars of beans, and Papa planted potatoes, so they kept potatoes underneath the house, and they'd be toward the last of that for, you know, whatever you choose to eat potatoes with, fry or mash or however. But Dad come to me and handed me a garden hoe and said, "Come on, son, you're going to take and hoe some corn." And he showed me how. And kind of, you know, 7 or 8 or 8 or 9, kind of him hauling around about it. And Dad wasn't necessarily a patient man. After a couple times shown, he expected you to be able to just pick it up and do it. Well, needless to say, I picked it up and I did it. And after about, I think it was a second corn shoot or stalk that I cut down, he took it away. He took the hoe away from me and said, "Go play." So that was my part of my gardening education. And of course, from that time, I have gleaned information and how to do things. And of course, what I don't know, I'll call Dad and ask him. Just like we've got a spot behind where we work. There's a little patch of ground that they tilled up last spring, and I think we put 9 or 10 rows of corn and a few cabbage plants, some hot peppers, some jalapenos. I personally think I planted about 30 tomato plants. But the thing of it was, the one who was kind of spearheading this operation, he looked online, and online said you plant corn about 6 inches apart and about 2 inches deep. And I said, "Jim, buddy, I don't think that's right." He said, "Well, that's what the internet said." I said, "Well, you know, okay, but I still don't think that's right. It seems like Papa planted it close to a foot apart." And I called Dad after everything was said and done and said, "Oh, son, no, 6 inches is too close together." He said, "Your Papa did it the old way." He said it went close to 15 inches apart. He said, "I normally keep it close to a foot." the storms and groundhogs, which is a whole nother story. We'll say a whole nother video in its own. We didn't get no corn. Out of 10 rows of corn, 9 or 10 rows of corn, we took out one ear. One ear of corn out of all that, because all of it blew over and we couldn't get it to come back up. Could not get it to come back up. And essentially the groundhog took the rest. So next year, Lord willing, we take and plant. We'll be a little different and a little better. So help me God, because that wasn't exactly a chore doing, but it wasn't exactly the easiest, and especially not getting nothing but one ear out of. Now the tomatoes, we had tomatoes rotting on the vine, and folks, I don't know how well you can tell how big as my hand is, but I've got a fairly decent sized hand, and I had tomatoes, or we pulled tomatoes out of there that was almost as big as my hand, or the palm, and of course it hung over, and that was some of the best. It was actually so much so I took a picture and I sent it to my aunt, and I asked her, I said, do you think Papaw would approve? And she sent back, Lord, yes, Papaw would definitely approve. And she said, how'd you all do that? So, well, it's probably enough of my babbling. You folks take care. Be safe for the New Year's. And always remember, kindness costs you nothing.